Hi and welcome to ECCB Connects, a program produced by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to share with you who we are, what we do, and how we serve you. Everybody's backyard in the Caribbean could be considered a virtual pharmacy. That's the interesting position advanced by Dr. Valma Jessamy, resident scientist at Grenville Vale Tropical Botanic Garden in Grenada during the recently concluded 7th Growth and Resilience Dialogue. We're pleased to bring you excerpts from her presentation on the advantages and disadvantages of traditional medicine usage on this episode. Stay with us, we'll be back with the details after this message.
EC Polymer Notes, our new money.
Here's how you can detect genuine EC polymer notes. Feel. Polymer notes feel smoother than the material from which paper notes are made. Look. Look for the clear window at the front and back of each note. This window allows you to see through the notes. If you hold the notes up to the light, you'll see the value of the note in an area of plain colored print. Tilt. A holographic foil is on the $100, $50, and $20. The images move and their colors change when you tilt the notes. Remember, detecting genuine EC polymer notes is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Feel, look, and tilt.
EC Polymer Notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
Thanks for staying connected. You've heard it said before that the food we eat is actually medicine to our bodies. And maybe our grandparents knew this too well, as they would fast to consult the herbs from the backyard before seeing a medical doctor. Resident scientist at Grenville Vale Tropical Botanic Garden in Grenada, Dr. Valma Jessamy explored the advantages and disadvantages of traditional medicine usage during the 7th Growth and Resilience Dialogue. In her presentation, Dr. Jessamy invited her audience to reimagine a future where traditional medicine would be the game changer. She also highlighted sections of a case study in which the phytochemicals or plant chemical compounds found in honey were traced to many healing plants.
Our last speaker did touch on the fact that the Caribbean is this West Indian medical complex. But our history is not one that begins with Christopher Columbus in 1492. We are not a depeopled region. So when we are very proud about, traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine from India and other regions, we have yet to name and to own and claim all that came out of this great West Indian medical complex when we had a mixing from the Kalinago, the Saramaccan, the Amerindians, the Garifunas people, and all of this exchange that happened with Europe. This great West Indian medical complex is best expressed in the work of Dr. Pablo Gomez when he speaks of the experiential Caribbean. So one of the major advantages is the fact that a lot of this has already been worked out. If you go back to the work of the Jesuit priests, you would see that they would have spent time with our indigenous peoples. The idea that Africans came to the Caribbean only in the 18th century and so during the enslavement period is actually false. And Dr. Gomez paints a picture of the Black Caribbean healer who was filled with power and knowledge. In that time period, you had lots of free Black peoples or medical doctors and practitioners who were paid for their healing work. If you read the work of Sloane from the 1670s, and that of the Royal Botanic Gardens, which he's famed to have started, you will understand that plants are still relevant as cures. This here is a photo of a honeybee on the flower of what we call bloodroot, which is a medicinal plant. And we have been able to trace the phytochemicals from many of these plants into our honey. Again, there was the mention of the Caribbean being one of the hotspots because our biodiversity is under threat. If you go back as far as the 17th century records, you would find copious books on our medical plants of the Antilles. Guava here, for instance, is listed for its medicinal benefits for fertility. Guava is known to help increase testosterone and wellness in women and both men. Guava increases the sperm count in men. We also know that the guava leaves are used for many healing properties. So it's well documented that plants such as the arrowroot, which is a fusion of African and Amerindian knowledge, plant-based cures, were used for its healing properties when persons were recuperated in the plantation hospitals. And Hans Sloane, who worked in Jamaica for a very long time, between 1687 to 1689, has described quite a lot of those healing remedies that he's famed for, but he learned it from our peoples. We know that arrowroot is also good as an antidote for poison. So we have this long history of documenting our traditional medicine and the cures. Take, for instance, Guaiacum officinal, which we call the tree of life, is described by Columbus in 1492 in his voyage log as a cure for syphilis. We think of the Caribbean plantation agriculture only around sugarcane and coffee and cocoa, etc. But tons of medicine was exported to Europe and other parts of the world from the West Indies. In 1952, a lot of things happened. With decolonization, a lot of what we call traditional cures, the chemistry was worked out. So you can go to PubMed, for instance, and find validation of the phytochemistry and the pharmacological properties of much of our traditional plants. So it has been validated. Guaifenencin is the active chemical from Guaiacum officinal. Unfortunately, this plant is now on the IUCN Red List and endangered. This is a native plant of the West Indies. It is the flagship plant of Jamaica, for instance. Now, our traditional knowledge was used for resistance, and today we're talking about resilience. If you read the work of Weaver, Medical Revolutionaries, the work of Laura in The Secret Cures of Slaves, she described the 18th century Caribbean, where our women healers, or the men too, were able to use the traditional knowledge for resistance. So that women were using this plant, which is the native plant of Barbados, as an abortifacient. They did not want their children to come into slavery. And so a lot of the early work in fertility actually started in the Caribbean because there was this dilemma. Why is it we cannot have natural increase of the population? And it's because there was resistance. The healers were able to either reduce fertility, abort fetuses. They were able to make the entire plantation sick and know just what to give them to recover. So that resistance resulted in lots of agnotologies and barriers in the transfer of knowledge, which is why we have this crisis in present 21st century, as opposed to regions such as China, in which the traditional medical cures are a part integrated of the health delivery system. As early as 1767, there were laws prohibiting Amerindians from providing knowledge of plant cures to the African peoples. The reports of all the cures were authored by Europeans. Imagine, we were banned from reading and writing. And so this oral tradition, as well as the fact that Negroes were banned from practicing medicine, contributed to this idea of our healers as involved in dark art of Obio and Voodoo. So I'm going to move forward very quickly because of time. And I would not go into some of what I wanted to say because it got captured by many other presenters, to give you a little bit out of a case study. And this is a time presentation, so I have to just go quickly. I have been working with honey, and we were able to track the phytochemicals in the honey to many healing plants. We were able to look at the antimicrobial profile of some of the specific honeys that we are able to produce and see that we have very high actually the honey is able to, the bacterial kinetics show that we have very high antibacterial activity. We were able to do the phytochemistry and trace this back to the plants. And so we were able to develop 35VX, which has 35 antivirals from our team of biomedical scientists, biotechnologists, and chemical engineers who work with 17th Century Cures, which is the company that I head. We have worked with a medical doctor here, and we're actually doing a lot of groundbreaking work where we are healing wounds, including diabetic ulcers, with our traditional medicine and honey cures. In closing, we need to decolonize our food and agriculture and healthcare system. We do not have any herbal gardens and proprietary planting schemes, and so based on the phytochemistry and pharmacological properties of our plants, or farming techniques are such that we are getting rid of a lot of our healing plants. We need nurseries and conservation seed banks. Everybody's backyard in the Caribbean could be considered a virtual pharmacy. The food that we eat is medicine. These are some of the ingredients that is typically used in a Grenadian oil down. In there are lots of herbs, including turmeric, which are known for the anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and healing properties, antioxidant properties. You can go to our website, Sustainable Island Living, where you can get some of the presentations that we have been doing on decolonizing our food and healthcare system, food as medicine, antibacterial resistance, and using our native herbs and plants.
Celebrating ECCB at 40.
Did you know that the agreement establishing the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank was signed on July 5, 1983 in Trinidad and Tobago by 7 member states? Now you know, celebrating ECCB at 40.
That's it for this episode of ECCB Connects. Thank you for watching. We hope that you found it to be quite informative. Do connect with us again next week for another presentation where we'll share with you who we are, what we do, and how we serve you.